Today we're talking with Dale Cramer, who is the author of a trilogy entitled The Daughters of Caleb Bender.
Yeah.
That's right. And the first book was called Paradise Valley. The second book is The Captive Heart. And there's a third book to come.
Be coming out at the end of this year. And they've just decided it's going to be titled Though Mountains Fall.
Though Mountains, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm not real crazy about The Captive Heart, but I like Though Mountains Fall.
It has a nice ring to it, and it sounds like the final book.
Yeah, Though Mountains Fall.
Yeah.
I know, I really, really like that. And so that book will be out the end of 2012.
Yes. Yeah, should be out in December.
Already written, already gone?
It's already it's in the pipeline. They're editing and working on cover art and stuff, in the process. I've still got some editing to do, but it's about halfway there.
You excited about it?
Yeah, I think it's.
Is it good?
I think it's as good as The Captive Heart. Yeah.
Which was as good as Paradise Valley, so they're all been good.
Yeah, I think in the series, I'm excited about having the series complete because a lot of people misunderstood. In that market, a lot of people expect books, a series, to be 3 separate, distinct stories about the same characters. This is not. This is
continuation.
This is a 1,000-page story, So
yeah, because each one leads right into the next.
Yeah, it appears to have like cliffhangers at the end of the book. It's because the story's not finished. It's a big long.
But
story.
you had the overall view before you started the first book. You knew where book 2 was going to be and where book 3 was going to be.
Yeah, basically, because essentially, it's based on a historical event. There was a finite time period when they were in Mexico, and I wanted.
And these are your ancestors.
Yeah, this would be the
Amish community, or
yeah. Essentially, there was a group of Amish in the 1920s who had a falling out with the state of Ohio, and it ended up with what I would consider religious persecution. And they actually found some land in the mountains of Mexico and went down there and started a colony to get away from religious persecution in Ohio. And my great-grandfather was like the elder statesman of the colony. They were down there for the better part of the 1920s.
Well, I was going to ask you that. Did any of them stay there, and are there any of your relatives down there today?
No, not that I know of. There are Amish in Mexico today, but not that same colony.
Okay. Another colony.
It's another colony started later, and there's a huge Mennonite settlement down there that's very successful. But this particular colony, I think because of the turbulence, this was right in the wake of the Mexican Revolution.
Which is there in the book.
And yeah, and the historical fabric of the book is correct. This is what it was like in the 1920s, right after the Mexican Revolution. Essentially, Pancho Villa's army broke up into small groups and went into business for themselves, and they were.
Well, we should tell people too. There's a lot of history in the book.
Yes.
You do have Pancho Villa and different characters that are famous, incorporated in the perimeters of the story.
Yeah, but don't tell people it's a history book.
No, but what I'm saying, it's got history, and it's not graphically violent, but it's got violence in it. It's got romance in it.
Yeah.
It's got some funny things in it.
Yeah, I can't help that.
It's kind of creeps in there to your right. But we've talked about the book. Let's go back and talk about Dale Cramer, or C. Dale Cramer, which when I met you, you had the initial C, or W, excuse me, W. I don't know where I got C
My
from.
children still call me W.
W. Dale Cramer. But then for this series, it's Dale Cramer.
Yeah.
Are you taking the W off your other books?
No, it stays on the old books. The ones that had the W initially, it stays there. But I tell people I lost my W in San Francisco. I got an email. We were in San Francisco, and I got an email saying that they were no longer going to put the W on my books. So I said, okay. But I happened to be in San Francisco at the time.
But you had been a stay-at-home father.
Yes.
You have two boys. I don't know where a third child came from. You have
we have a dog.
You have a dog. But 2 sons, and you were a stay-at-home dad.
Yes.
You were an electrician.
For 25 years before that, yeah.
And then just decided one day to be a writer.
Well, the boys took naps, and I had to do something quiet.
And there's nothing quieter than writing.
And it started too. There was an article. I was doing little side jobs to pick up cash, and I was building an office for a friend in his basement. And we got in an argument one night, and it turned into an article in Industry Week, which made me think that I was Hemingway. So I started.
Could do this.
Yeah. And I found this CompuServe writers group and started working with them while the kids were taking naps to do something quiet.
And let's mention,
short stories.
Dale, who was in that CompuServe writers group?
Diana Gabaldon was running it. She was the maven who ran the thing. But there were so many writers who.
And Karen White was in there, I know.
Karen White was she was my nemesis in that group. She and I have been famous enemies for years, and we're actually very good friends. But we picked on each other in there. Lori Benton was in there. Rob Burns is published. He was in there. It's just a number of people.
But that was the group that you got started with.
Yes, yeah. It was apparently a breeding ground of writers. There was a lot of knowledge there.
It's a shame I didn't get in there.
But yeah, it was great. It was really the very best online thing I've ever seen for producing writers, because it was honest feedback from people who knew what they were talking about.
They could back it up. And then your first book was?
My first book was Sutter's Cross.
Sutter's Cross.
Came out in 02 or 03.
I don't know. I know you, but I don't keep up with the publication dates of your books.
It came out within 2 weeks of my 50th birthday, which was in 02, at the end of 02. So 02, 03, right around the end of 02, it was on the shelves.
And it was a freestanding novel.
Yes. Yeah. Everything I've done up until this trilogy was standalone novels. That's all I've ever, and that's all I ever really wanted to do. The reason I did a trilogy this time was because I knew I could not get this story in 400 pages. It just couldn't be done.
I think it's a great idea, because people have really anticipated each next book. They really have. But was anything about Sutter's Cross historical? I mean, part of biographical?
No, Sutter's Cross was. There was a lot of stuff in there that I had gathered from camping trips up in the mountains with my family. But other than that, there was nothing historical about it. It was just it was my first book. I sat down and wrote the line. It actually started as an exercise for that online forum. I wrote the line. The first time I ever saw Harley, he was wearing my pants, because I could envision this guy at a church picnic, and he's got his back to me, and he's loading his plate from a buffet table. And scruffy looking character, looks homeless, but he's got this ink stain on the back pocket of his jeans, and I realized that those are my jeans that he's wearing. And I sat down and I wrote, the first time I ever saw Harley, he was wearing my pants. And I started from that line and that scene and wrote a 400-page book.
And it grew.
But it was a lark. This is when I was at home with the kids, and I wrote the book just to see if I could.
And you could.
And apparently I could. I sent it to an agent, and she took it on. She had some things that needed to be done to it, but she helped me with it, and we sold it.
And then the next one was?
The next one was Bad Ground.
My favorite book.
Mine too, I think.
It is my favorite book.
And it was the one that ended up on Publishers Weekly's Best Books of the Year list.
And you won the Christie Award for it.
Won the Christie Award. I mean, it got all kind of accolades. Didn't sell particularly well because it's a woman's market and it looks like a man's book. It's not, but it looks like one. I learned some things from that.
It was just a great story. And you did bring some of your personal experiences into that.
I did, yeah. There was a lot of... it's because I was in a rush. The second book, you spend 3-4 years working on the first book, learning how to do it, and then all of a sudden you sell it and they give you a 2-book deal. I never anticipated a 2-book deal. When I sold the book, they gave me a 2-book deal, which meant 12 months from now I got to give them another one, and I had not anticipated that.
What do you mean a second book?
Yeah, and so I had to go to my reserve story, the most complete thing I had in my head, and that was Bad Ground.
And then the next was Levi's Wheel.
Yes.
Which is the 4th book in the trilogy.
Yeah.
But you kind of jumped the horse before the cart or whatever. And Levi's Wheel also won the Christie Award.
Yes.
and is just a fantastic book. But then after Levi's Will, which dealt with the Amish and dealt with your ancestors, you jumped to an entirely different book, Summer of Light.
Summer of Light was, well, essentially,
Which is my wife's favorite book.
Summer of Light is essentially it's a story about a redneck stay-at-home dad, not in the least autobiographical.
No, I didn't recognize you at all.
Nothing autobiographical.
Who is
there.
that man?
And the thing is, Levi's Will was a very heavy kind of book. It was about my father's story, loosely based on my father's life, and it was a heavy thing for me. It was personally, it weighed on my shoulders when I was writing that book. And when I got through it, I wanted to do something light.
Summer
And I
of
had
Light.
all these wonderful stories from being a stay-at-home dad and dealing with these kids as I was a construction worker. And I didn't know anything about staying home with kids, so I did it my way, and a lot of times it turned out kind of strange. And so I decided to write a book, sort of using some of that stuff. It's not my actual experience, but I used a lot of it.
Was that the most successful of your books? Or can you say?
The most successful of my books to date has been Levi's Will.
Because I just know a lot of people who love Summer of Light. It wasn't my favorite. I thought it was good, but it wasn't my favorite.
It was fun. I thought it was a lot
But
of fun.
I know people who just thought, that was just
Yeah.
the greatest Dale Cramer book.
I have gotten that a lot. What's nice to me, what I think personally is kind of an accomplishment, is that it's almost even across the board. From the feedback that I get, I'd say it's an even number of people from book to book that this is my favorite book. There are people who love Levi's Will. There are people who love Summer of Light.
There are people who love Bad Ground.
Bad Ground. Sutter's Cross may be a little bit behind the others, but
And then there are people who love this new group, and this is The Captive Heart.
yeah.
And they, the advance copy I got had a guy standing here, and they took him out of this picture.
Yeah, there were already people saying they didn't like the guy in the picture.
And he's gone.
Before, yeah, and
Well, he's standing way back there.
he disappeared. I really didn't have anything to do with that. There were some people online saying they had seen advanced review copies of the book. They'd seen ARCs, and the ARC had that guy on the cover.
That's review copy.
And they read the ARC. Well, you've got ARCs laying here. We can show people. This is what the ARC looks like, and it has the guy on the cover.
Yep, that's
so
what
you can
compare.
So this is what one of the advanced readers was looking at when they wrote their review, and they said they loved the story, but they hated the cover because of the guy.
I would never say something like that.
And that feedback, I think, got back to the publisher, and the publisher just kind of, photoshopped the guy out and moved him into the background.
Well, this has gone too fast. I mean, we could get you back down here and talk for another hour, 2 hours, whatever.
Anytime.
But let me tell you, I wish you loads of luck. The Captive Heart is out in bookstores now. Though Mountains Fall
Though Mountains Fall
will be out this
December of this year.
So you've got that to look forward to. Dale Cramer, or W. Dale Cramer, whatever way you call him, he is a great writer and writes fantastic books. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you, Jack.